Hey everyone, today we're out on the logging roads and I thought I'd make a little vlog about road conditions. Right now we gotta keep it pretty slow, it's pretty bumpy, and every now and then we gotta keep switching back and forth, zigzagging around the road, trying to find the most smooth path through. Some areas are like driving through wet concrete, it sprays up all over you, almost getting stuck on a few hills. Wheels were spinning going uphill, spraying it all over the windows and stuff. Got stuck once yesterday, bottomed out in the middle of the road. That's why they're not sending log trucks anymore, not until all the roads start hardening again. A lot of these roads, I'm suspecting, in the muddy spots are still frozen, that's why they're so muddy. A lot of the shady areas you'll still see snow. Areas with very dense tree cover. Saw some pretty good washouts, but most of that stuff is repaired already this time of year. Now getting into the middle of May. Sometimes these bumps, like you hear, you just have to keep a decent speed over them. It would be impossible to make it out to these locations if we were driving at like 10 miles an hour. It would just take forever. Yesterday, I drove over 300 miles on these roads. I actually found one pretty good blockage. But only one, so it's not feasible to go crawling at 10 miles an hour on these roads. You just can't get places fast enough. There's been a lot of moose this trip in the evening because this is their mating season. They're most active now, finally warm after winter. They're out eating all the tree buds. I saw they're still doing maple syrup tapping even though it's May, because we're still getting a few nights below freezing this far north in Maine anyways. Good for sleeping. Last night I got the best night's sleep I've got in quite a while. 10 hours of sleep. Lately I've been sleeping only like 4 or 5. Just can't seem to sleep anymore. But I guess it was just so relaxing. Oh, there's some snow. And it's also in the woods a little bit. Last night was relaxing. It got slightly below freezing and there was a lot of chirping frogs. I've always wondered how that's possible. It'll show up on the dashboard that it's just below freezing, but yet you still hear frogs. They must be in the water where they have like a barrier of steam rising up from it being so cold. But the noises I'm hearing are tree frogs, but I'm assuming they're probably at the water if they're not hunkered down. I don't think they're on the tree in that weather. They'd freeze. Got a bulldozer making a new road. This time of year it's pretty dead out here. It's mud season, which means the tourists aren't here. They wouldn't want to be here on roads like this. In the summer when it rains a lot, you don't see as many tourists. They usually come up for vacation from the cities, and I've heard many of them complain to me. Like one guy, when he was casually talking to me, some guy with New York plates, he must have been from the city, not the rural areas, of course, was complaining to me and like trying to get me to agree with him about how horrible the roads are and complaining about how he has to wash his car, which is now covered in mud. If you can see my hood, every inch of this car is covered in mud. The dust will get in, cover every surface on the inside, make you feel dirty. But that's the fun about these roads. They're very messy. They're fun to drive. It makes you become a better driver. Oh, and look at that. Look way up there. Look at that. There's a moose running away from us. There's a moose up there. I had to zoom in because I don't think we're going to get close enough to see him. Yeah, he's already gone. If it was nighttime, he'd probably stick around for a while. But it's daytime, which means he's just going to run away. If it was nighttime, you can blind them with your lights and get pretty close to them. Not in the daytime. But moose at night, they'll run in front of you forever. You got to shut your headlights off and let them run into the woods after a couple of minutes. I'll usually let them stay in front of me walking for a couple minutes just to take pictures. Then I just got to let them go, because they'll go forever. Your headlights make the woods look like dark walls. They feel like they have nowhere to go. Did the moose just run down this dirt road? Was he that far up? Yeah, there's a lot of moose this season. I'm happy to see that, because their population numbers are down to the point Maine is thinking about pausing all hunting for a few years of them. I remember my area when I first moved up there. No, not when I moved up there. Things haven't really changed too much in the past couple of years, but when I was a kid in that area, the same area I was in, those logging roads, you used to see moose. They actually took down all the moose crossing signs. When I was a little kid, they had these giant signs with yellow lights. So if you're driving at night, there's a motion sensor. It would turn on these flickering yellow lights like a pedestrian crossing has. But it's a moose crossing sign, because there used to be so many when I was little. Now, there's not enough, so they took down all the signs. Northern Maine still has those signs. If you're driving in northern Maine, you will see signs like that. Anyone that lives in Maine will know what I'm talking about. At night you're driving, and then there'll be flickering strobe lights, and there's a moose crossing sign attached to it. Because moose are large, dark objects that'll just be standing in the road. They don't move for headlights. They'll move for a car, usually. Sometimes you'll have a stubborn one. There's only been probably one moose I can recall that's actually turned around to me as a moving vehicle and started walking towards me like a threat. Then it noticed I'm not stopping and it ran away. Other than that, if you see a moose in the distance and you stop, it'll usually stop, turn around and look at you, and you can zoom in really good for a picture. But if you keep trying to get closer, it's going to run into the woods. But moose are typically slow-moving creatures, which means they're usually already in the road when they get hit. They usually don't just run out into the road. I've had one run out into the road, but they're not fast. They're not like a deer. Deer hop around quickly like a prancing rabbit. Deer can't make up their minds. A herd of them will be zigzagging back and forth across the road. Even in the daytime, they can't pick a place they want to be. And I think that might be because they think your vehicle's a predator. Why they try to race you and zigzag in front of you. That's why they get hit. They're stupid compared to a moose. I think a moose is just not fast enough to be like that. But anyway, on a daily basis, I see more moose than deer, and moose have never been a hazard in my way. I've had some stubborn ones that just refuse to move, but I've never had ones jump out in front of the car. And that's something I have observed. There are not many moose up here. You see maybe a couple a day, but compared to deer you can go, sometimes you'll go a whole summer without seeing a deer. But I've never experienced that. What I'm saying is I have gone a whole summer without seeing a deer, and I've had that one or two deer race me and try to zigzag in front of the car. Why they get hit. I see more moose, and that does not happen in my experience. But moose are more dangerous to hit because they're huge. You're probably going to die if that goes through your windshield. Moose can weigh well over 1,000 pounds. I don't know what a deer weighs personally, but by looking at them, I'd say probably a couple 100 pounds. Ooh, we just had a hawk cross the road. slept out here. It was nice and cool, had a chorus of frogs, and only one vehicle went by all night, and I was there 10 hours. Nice. So in this vlog, we might see a car, but very unlikely. Well, we'd probably see a truck. I don't think a regular car would even make it to this point of the road this time of year. Like I said, there was some mud holes that my truck didn't even get up one of the hills. I had to speed up a muddy hill because the wheels would just spin. It was too steep with the mud, and I didn't want to go over on the edge. I was afraid of getting into the ditch. Over there. Frost heaving season is just about over, but the roads are still soft. During frost heaving season, they'll run the logging trucks at night only. They'll start up around 10 at night, sometimes 1 at night. Oh, I think that's what it is. They start at 1 a.m. and they stop at 10 a.m. So just that 9-hour period is when the log truck drivers are active, because the road temporarily freezes that time of year, frost heaving season. But during frost heaving season, there's a lot of very abrupt bumps, culverts lifted out of the ground that cause big bumps. So anytime you hit a big bump, there's usually a bunch of logs on the side of the road. They fall off of the trucks. Even if they are secured with a cable over the top of them, some of them can sneak out of the middle, and sometimes out here the log trucks don't even secure them, because these log trucks are often 200,000 pounds, double wide trailers. They're not street legal. They only use the truck to get them from the logging site out of the wilderness, which sometimes can be hundreds of miles out, this deep in the wilderness. And it's their private property. They don't have to secure them. And you're stupid if you're following a log truck tailgating it and a log falls on you. It's your own fault. But sometimes on these bumpy roads, the logs can fall off. And then they unload them at the end of the wilderness. And that's usually where the sawmill is located, right next to the wilderness. So they don't have to unload it and load it onto street legal trucks. What they drive out here is not street legal at all. They're over height, over width. Now, yesterday I was really surprised. The weight limit. I saw this bridge the other day. The weight limit said 230,000 pounds. That's a lot for a little wooden bridge. But there's I-beams underneath that. They usually build the decks out of wood because the logging equipment drives across it with these gigantic chains on the log skids. They drive excavators across it, and it destroys the deck after a few years. They don't even use pressure-treated wood. It wouldn't last. They don't use concrete because it would cause permanent damage. There are a couple of newer concrete bridges, but they're already showing what happens when heavy log equipment with chains drives over it. Not just the trucks. These big excavators with chains, log haulers, big spikes on the wheels. Concrete just destroys. They're just making little holes in the deck that water gets in and freezes even worse. A little bit more snow around the corner. I look into the dark woods. There's still a little bit that's not a snowbank. That big rock over there getting pushed up. That was huge. These roads may be in bad shape now, but the logging company usually gets them in pristine condition for summer. They'll come out here with the grader, unless it's a very rainy summer. Although last year was so rainy, I couldn't believe the condition of how well they were able to keep these roads. I guess just lots and lots of drainage improvements. The worst I've ever seen these logging roads is when I first started taking them like 5 years ago, and I've never seen anything to top that. Recently they've been doing an awesome job at keeping these roads good. Because if you think this road is bad, watch some of my videos from 5 years ago. You literally had to crawl down these roads. They were so bad. So many rocks in the middle of the road. But in the summer, they get these roads in such good shape. You can drive a very low clearance 2-wheel drive car down them. I've seen that in the summer. You still got to be very careful and cautious, of course. But I've seen people do it. Not that you should. I remember during mud season once, maybe it was mud season, but a very low clearance Prius hit a rock, and the person continued driving deeper into the wilderness without oil. Then I know it was a Prius because I saw a rock, I filmed it in my video, covered in oil with a trail leaving it deeper into the wilderness. Then when I was camping on the side of the road, there was a tow truck dragging this car back out of the woods, and I assumed it had to have been the same car, because it's not often you see a car like that driving out here. And even the tow truck had a flat tire. There's a speed limit sign saying 45, but I wonder why the tow truck would be out here without having a spare of their own. But yeah, the tow truck had one of its front tires just running on rims trying to get that car out of the wilderness. I wonder if that car got charged for that rim. That rim is obviously not being used again. I've been stuck a few times out here with the new truck, but the new truck has a winch, which always made easy work out of that. My old car got stuck a few times, actually, because I had that car so long. I wouldn't dare saying it was probably 12 times. I always got myself unstuck except once. I always was able to dig it out eventually, put sticks and other things under the wheels. No, actually that's a lie. I got stuck twice where I couldn't get it out myself. One time I sustained a little bit of front end damage. Forgot about that, but that wasn't a logging road. Then out here once I had to get towed out, but the tow truck driver was nice. He told me if I had to bring my wrecker out, I would have charged you over $20,000 for this job. Bringing that huge, because that's like a tractor trailer tow truck out, since that's what they have out here. Because usually when someone gets stuck, it's usually one of the log trucks. But he came out with his pickup truck. It was a Tacoma, and pulled it right out without any problem at all. And the guy told me, you can follow me back to my office and we'll do a credit card transaction for $800, or you can give me $400 under the table right now and we'll do the transaction here in the woods. So that's what we did. We did it out in the middle of the woods. Just gave him $400 that I thankfully had on me. Right now, if I got stuck, I maybe have $10 worth of quarters to do laundry, but that's about it. Haven't been carrying cash with me lately. Yeah, especially since the Maine Northwoods started letting me in for free, I haven't really carried cash up here anymore. And also the Maine Northwoods, starting last season, you don't have to pay them in cash anymore. They now have the technology out here in the middle of nowhere to take the credit cards. And a couple of years ago, someone reported me to the logging companies for causing malicious damage to the roadways, like unclogging pipes. It was obviously some extreme environmentalist that was mad that I was draining the beavers' ponds. But what those people don't understand is when the beaver's pond is there, what do you think the environmental impact of this dirt road pushing out into the woods is? All that sediment downstream, the culvert being lost downstream, all that. They don't think about that stuff. All they think about is the beaver pond. And I have explained in my videos, we do it as humanely as possible. I do not touch a primary beaver pond, meaning that's where they live and that's where their lodge is in the winter months, because that's a death sentence to the beaver. They can't rebuild in the winter with the ice. They use that water to float materials. But if it's a secondary pond and we did our due diligence looking the entire swamp over for a beaver lodge and we don't find one, then we'll go ahead and remove it. But someone like that, they obviously are not going to tell the logging company I'm doing environmental damage, because the logging company obviously does that too. They just wanted me to get in trouble for touching the culverts. But that was kind of cool, because I was out here so much back then. I'm not out here as much. I've been working on other things. But back then, I could have been found in the wilderness every other week. But that log truck driver, or who was it? I think it was even the company owner, maybe, because this is a bunch of small companies. He eventually found me out on one of the dirt roads, and he got out of his truck, and I thought I was in trouble at first. This guy says, "So you're the effer who's been messing with my pipes." But he was just messing around and joking with that language, and he was actually very happy that I was out there doing that stuff. So that, yeah, that worked out nice. I don't have to pay for the Northwoods anymore. And one of the rangers was also, they went through my channel and they really liked that I had videos of the steam locomotives and stuff, because they said that brings more tourists, having videos like that out there. They also liked that I had a video that they've never even seen before of me bushwhacking down the abandoned rail line, and there's more abandoned train cars that no one knew was out there. But it's funny. Over the years, I've been reported a few times. Oh. Got some graffiti over on that sign. What does that say? You don't usually see that out here in the middle of nowhere. What does that say? PUSS4HEE. I believe that's what that says. I think that's old graffiti though. Someone did a bunch of graffiti like that a year ago. No one knows who it was. Someone on one of the other signs wrote, "Thank you, Jesus." Another one said, I think, "Thank you, God." But it's probably the same person that wrote that, because it's the red graffiti over the entire sign. And they're all in the general area. You don't see that too often out here. We got another little bridge coming up. But don't let the logging company catch you doing that. Logging company they're not gonna be very happy at all. And out here in these small towns, the police will be very hard on you for doing that. Here's another sign. Does that have graffiti on it? Oh, yes it does. But that's just some graffiti scribble. I can't even make out any letters on it. Because out here, there's no one on these roads. You'll go hours without passing a single person. And yeah, people in the country are very, very nice until they catch you doing something wrong. There's another yellow sign. Looks like that one was spared by the graffiti person. It's the same thing with people that take the effort of driving into the wilderness hours and 100 miles deep to dump a damn couch. I'll never understand those people. Why do you drive so deep into the pristine wilderness to do something like that? Why couldn't you just leave it on the side of the road near town? I understand those people don't want to pay the dump bill, which is probably $25, but Really? You're gonna waste $100 in gasoline driving on these roads to bring a couch? I don't understand that logic at all. Is it the thrill of doing it? Just the same reason with people when they pull it out of their truck, why do they throw it down in the ditch where no one will ever find it? You're already in the middle of the woods, you're not going to get caught, just leave it on the edge of the road where it can actually get picked up and thrown out. I'll never understand that logic. Like, I know in my town I can drive to the transfer station and anything bulk like that, a mattress, things like that, it's usually between 10 and 25 bucks. It's not a big deal to get rid of it. And in my experience, almost every time I've got something like a mattress or something, like in my life I've only bought one mattress. Like up until 2 years ago, I was just sleeping on pads on the floor. I got a mattress 2 years ago, and they would have taken the old mattress if I had one for free. So again, I don't understand. A lot of times when you go to get tires, they, like when I go to Town Fair Tire, they say tire disposal is 10 bucks. And like, I don't understand someone just dumping it for that minimal cost. Dumping it on the side of the road somewhere. Probably using that $10 in gas. But I think I finally have a little bit of a signal. After 2 days, that's what all those notifications were. A bunch of people texted me after a few days. I'll reply later. I'll be out of town. I'll be back into a town probably tonight. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see. I'm about to turn my transfer pump back on again. When I'm out here, just in case my transfer pump was to just somehow not work, I don't think I'd be able to get that thing working again. Like, at least if a car starter, like this truck, I had them show me where the starter was when I bought it, and I'm hoping at least if the starter got stuck someday on a flat spot, I could at least touch it with a screwdriver and get it to turn over. But the fuel pump, I don't know if I could do that. So when I'm out on these logging roads, whenever I see my fuel gauge get down to half a tank like it is now, I go and I push this little button, turns on a transfer pump, and now it's going to fill me back up to full. So I have a second fuel tank that's twice as big as the original fuel tank, so I can stay out here a long time. I got tired of carrying gasoline cans, so that was a good investment. Like, at least where I live, I don't think you can have a pickup truck fuel tank that's gasoline. Like out here in the logging roads, you'll see a lot of guys in the back of their truck. They'll have it looks like a giant square toolbox, but it has a pump nozzle, like a gas station on the end of it. That's a transfer pump. If you have a diesel pickup truck, that thing will fill your truck a bunch of times. It can be used to fill excavators, other things. Can't do that with gasoline, I don't believe, in this state at least. But you can get rid of the spare tire underneath the back of the truck and put a really big fuel tank. So I can carry 55 gallons of fuel. I believe the original fuel tank on this thing was, I forget if it's either 21 or 24 gallons, but it fills that thing up more than twice again. That gives me a range of over 800 miles on these horrible roads. On these roads, I average, it's mud season, these roads are bad. I'm getting about 15 mpg. Normal conditions on the logging roads, I'll get 18. If I'm on the asphalt and I'm being very conservative with touching the gas, meaning I'm not revving it really hard, going up hills, taking it easy, not taking off fast, that kind of thing, using my momentum to get up hills, being very conservative, I can get like 22 mpg on the main roads. But sometimes on these dirt roads, if I'm really bogging down, struggling to not get stuck, those conditions, it's been as bad as 11 if I'm going all day. There's been times that I've gone through mud. It tells me my MPG from start, from the get-go. So if I turn it on, drive a minute down the road and shut it off, it's going to tell me something like 2, because it takes time to actually get that accurate reading. Like that video I have of me getting stuck in the snow, having a winch every couple feet, getting up that icy hill, that MPG was like 9. Pretty bad. But that's because it's all idling just to run the winch in off-road lights. You're essentially just using yourself as a generator. But yesterday I averaged 17 amazingly, and I drove 7 hours with the engine running non-stop at some point. That's what it said. Because a lot of times I get out and film things, I'm only out there for like a minute or two. That's not even worth shutting the vehicle off, because when you shut a vehicle off and back on, it uses more gasoline shutting it off just for a minute than the wear and tear. Yeah, it's more wear and tear. It's starting and stopping constantly like that. Remember, 90% of your wear and tear is in the first 30 seconds of startup. It's not lubricated properly. That's why I'll always hate those vehicles that shut off for 10 seconds and start back on at a red light. You're not saving yourself anything in the long run. Nothing. Don't even think you're saving yourself any fuel turning on and off like that. That's so much wear and tear on your engine. Those engines are usually tiny. You're usually turbocharged or something, and that's so much wear and tear. You're squeezing all that power out of a little itsy bitsy engine. But the truth is, people will buy these pickup trucks with a 4-cylinder engine with turbos or something. It gets a little bit better gas mileage, but not a lot. You go ahead and put a trailer on that truck, that little itsy bitsy struggling engine will get worse gas mileage than a V8. I've seen that before. So if someone actually uses a truck for a truck, you're not winning at all with that. In these off-road conditions, bogging down, I'd be afraid to put a little engine through that non-stop. Because on these roads, you'll probably get just as bad gas mileage if you had the bigger engine. Just because of these bogging down conditions. And out on these roads, this truck has a larger V6. That's why it gets such bad gas mileage. But even when you're bogged down in mud, bottomed out, even if you're attached to something trying to pull it, the engine never feels like garbage, like it's actually gonna die doing that stuff. But at some point, if I ever am pulling a trailer out in these parts, wouldn't want to do that with a small engine. That's how you break things, in my experience. I've known many people personally who have got those double turbos trucks in a 4-cylinder. It's back to the dealership a month later. They're done with that thing. Well, that's just my opinion on vehicles. When I'm off-road, if I got stuck in a place like this, especially during the colder months where I could get snowed in if I got stuck, I am responsible for getting myself out of these places. During the colder months, you can drive days on these roads. I even drove over a day straight this trip without seeing a single person. I'm not going to trust myself to an engine that's known for braking sooner than later. Like the truck I have now has been tested for a very long time, the engine in it. And it doesn't do that. It has a record of getting to 300,000 miles without braking. Many of those turbo engines have a record of braking between 70,000 and 150,000. So the way I drive, I don't want a truck that becomes non-trustworthy after a few years and would potentially break out here. Because those things, you can still drive turbo engines when the turbo brakes, but they're slow. Good luck with that. Well, once the turbo brakes, those things are sluggish. But I do like the idea of some of the newer drivetrains they have now with more gears. Like, I'm used to driving vehicles that have 6 gears, 5 gears, 4 gears. Less gears are typically more reliable, but now they have some pretty good transmissions that are 8 and 10 that are very reliable these days. They finally got rid of all the issues. I might even trust some of those new engine or the new transmissions Toyota has now it has gears for high torque situations, and when you're going really fast it uses belts like a CVT. But I would never trust a full CVT. I think I'd break that thing easily out here. Well, I hope this little vlog and rambling on was interesting. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Those are just some of my opinions on what I trust and what I've seen with engines.